Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, concerns over the consideration to remove the mandatory quarantine for visitors. Could another F&M MP be plotting his exit? Plus, a mother's plea for help for her child.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, the Consultant Physician Staff Association expressing concern over government's consideration to removing the mandatory quarantine period for people coming into the Bahamas. The CPSA president says as a third wave is imminent, government cannot be too quick to remove certain restrictions.
There is a concern and we're very likely to have another wave.
Several other countries now facing or bracing for a potential third wave of COVID-19 cases. CPSA President Dr. Sabrina Pinda-Butler says a third wave in the Bahamas is imminent. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis on Wednesday said the Bahamas is nearing the end of the second wave, prompting the ease of more restrictions. However, the CPSA president isn't of the same view.
We haven't had our quote-unquote third wave. We're still in the second wave. So as this continues to progress, because it will progress, it's not ending right now, we have to do what is the right thing. We cannot throw our hands up and just say, if people are going to the beach, let them stay in the beach for long hours.
According to Minnis, tourism officials are looking at ways to do away with the mandatory quarantine period for anyone entering the country, as it appears tourists aren't interested. However, the CPSA president questions whether that is a good idea. Here's why.
We have to be careful when we remove measures that we think about what else we're going to put into place. Are we going to have persons being tested when they come into country? Are we going to be able to further sustain our contact tracing so that if someone becomes ill quickly, or even if their tests become positive, we're going to be able to quickly identify them and notify all persons that would have been they came in contact with in a timely fashion.
Dr. Pinda-Butler also pointed to the number of deaths, which has now surpassed 85. Over 100 new cases were confirmed on Wednesday and 81 yesterday. Despite the lockdowns and additional measures, she says she doesn't think enough has been done.
We haven't had a good handle yet of what we need to have done to limit and decrease the spread of COVID-19. That should be concerning for anyone in our country. If you haven't gotten that message yet, please be it known today. Be concerned.
She says as more businesses reopen, Bahamians must also take some responsibility for helping to curb the spread of the virus.
We're all going home to our families. When religious institutions are opened, as much as we would like to have larger funerals and larger weddings, we know in some instances that that's where a lot of our community spread started from.
While the Ministry of Tourism's vacation-in-place policy could undergo major changes before the country's tourism industry reopens on October 15th. Tourism Director General Joy Jibrelu says the relevant ministries are working on a compromise as she admits no one wants to quarantine for 2 weeks. Here's Jasmine Brown.
The Tourism Director General was candid in her comments as she confessed that a vacation-in-place policy which calls for visitors to remain at their hotels for 2 weeks or the entirety of their trip is not going over well with potential visitors.
We know that the most recent orders have not been tourism friendly. No one wants to come on vacation in place, no matter what we call it. You know, a rose by any other name is still a rose. So we've learned that really clearly.
Jibrelu was a guest on TCL Group's RTV talk show, The Financial Voice. She said the Ministry of Tourism is close to reaching a compromise with the Ministry of Health and the competent authority on quarantine protocols for visitors. She added that the three groups have been locked in negotiations in order to find the most palatable way for visitors to enjoy their vacation while also keeping the spread of COVID-19 under control.
They don't want to be stuck in one place. The beauty about boating in the Bahamas is the multiplicity of islands, our beautiful, pristine waters, the opportunity to fish, to dive, all the things. that are the number one drivers of people wanting to travel now.
Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar announced the VIP policy during a nationally televised press conference earlier this month. At the time, de Aguilar said the Ministry of Tourism chose to use the phrase as opposed to the word quarantine to describe what tourists will be required to do when they come into the country. The Ministry of Tourism is eyeing October 15th for the full reopening of all hotels nationwide.
We hope that post 15th of October, and I'm smiling and I have to be very careful that I don't preempt myself, that we have been able to have very fruitful and meaningful conversations with the competent authority, Ministry of Health, really tabling and getting them to understand what needs to be in place for tourism to reopen sustainably and to the benefit of everyone. Travelers, persons working within the industry in the Bahamas, and obviously Bahamians who travel and come back. And we believe that we have reached some agreements, and it's just to fine-tune them, but we will be announcing those.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
In other news, days after former FNM MP Von Miller announced that he will join the PLP, could another FNM MP be plotting his exit from the governing party? Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine hinted it is a possibility, adding the FNM's chance of winning the next general election is slim. Berthany McDermott reports.
After traveling what some may describe as a rocky road in the Free National Movement, outspoken Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine says it's a major possibility that he too may quit the party. His comments follow the announcement by Golden Isles MP Von Miller that he will join the PLP's parliamentary caucus. McAlpine said he's siding with the people, adding that he hasn't decided if he will join another party.
That is a major option and a great possibility. I've just not at this stage made up my mind whether or not I'm going to be independent, I'm going to be with the FNM, the PLP, or the DNA, or anybody else. Right now, I'm with the people of Pine Ridge and the Bahamian people.
McAlpine stood along Miller in a number of controversial matters. Both members rejected the increase in the rate of value-added tax to 12%, which resulted in them being fired from the government-appointed positions. They also voted against the resolution for government to enter a lease agreement for Town Center Mall, which is partially owned by then Cabinet Minister Brent Simonet. McAlpine says the FNM has victimized and ostracized him and many others for having differing views.
There's no question about my party, which is the Free National Movement, that talks about democracy and has fought all these years against victimization and ostracization, has done likewise to me and many others within the party. It seems like when you are democratic in your views or independent in your views, they tend to want to ostracize you or think you're anti the party because you do not seem to agree with everything they say.
The FNM MP says he has had little communication with the party's leadership from day one. When asked if he will seek another nomination with the FNM for the Pine Ridge constituency, McAlpine said his options are open.
At this point, I am very neutral and I'm very open.
We also asked him if he thinks the FNM stands a chance of winning the next general election.
The Free National Movement will be in a fight for their life in any election with anyone at this time.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
The COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in a 66% decline in tourism during the first 6 months of 2020, according to Tourism Director General Joy Jirbalu, who said the sharp decline in visitor arrivals is in line with what's happening globally.
If we look at the first 6 months of the year, January through to June, the UNWTO tells us the declines were approximately 65%. And then if I look at our figures in the Bahamas, we see that for the corresponding period of January through to June, we saw declines of 66%. So we seem to be trending with the global trend there.
Tourism numbers were record-breaking in 2019 as the Bahamas welcomed more than 7 million visitors. Jirbalu said the country also recorded its best ever stopover visitor numbers with more than 1.8 million visitors. However, she says 2020 has been vastly different as global trends indicate the industry will not improve much, if at all, over the next 3 months.
If we look at what the forecast looks like through to the end of the year, UNWTO is projecting declines of between 58 to 78%. So if we think that the Bahamas has been trending in line with global reports, that's where we expect to end up anywhere between 58 to 78% in declines.
More news on the way, but here's a first look at weather with meteorologist Greg Thompson. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at weather. Unsettled weather pattern outside our studios. We have partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the mid-80s, 85 degrees, with some showers out there. Winds out of the southeast at 5 knots. Feels like temperature around 87 degrees Fahrenheit. On our satellite, once again, that unsettled pattern across our area. Showers and thunderstorms across most of the northwest and central Bahamas. We do have some showers across the southeast Bahamas. Those shower activities and some thunderstorms will continue tonight. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come, Grand Bahama residents reacted to the decision to delay a new power bill charge. Plus, a local funeral home calls on government to remove remaining funeral restrictions. Stay tuned.
Catch Gunday Kids on Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Gunday Kids is a show about learning, interacting, and having fun. Goombay Kids has made for kids by kids right here in the Bahamas.
Sit back, here we go, it's a Goombay day.
Goombay Kids!
Grand Bahama residents breathing a sigh of relief as they welcome the move by the island's power company to delay its SRS charge. Residents said that charge would have been a burden during this hard time.
We just had Dorian, now we are dealing with this pandemic, and right now it's very hard on a lot of people that live here in Grand Bahama, not only Grand Bahama but the entire Bahamas. So I think it's a great idea that they decide to hold back, because people are struggling right now.
While we don't like it, it's something that's going to come, and so while I don't want to pay it, while I feel we shouldn't have to pay it, it's something coming, so we have to deal with it, and the delay is going to help us best be able to get our funds together and deal with what we have to deal with.
The storm restoration and stabilization charge will be based on consumption and is said to have been the company's way of recouping over $15 million lost as a result of Dorian. The Grand Bahama Port Authority negotiated the delay to January 2021. As the regulator, GBPA said it was important to balance the need for upgraded technology and infrastructure against the needs of the consumer and the island's challenged economy. Resident Stevenson McIntosh said he believes the charge should be scrapped.
I think they need to cancel a surcharge that they plan to completely, because we, as the residents of Grand Bahama, we should not be responsible to fix their infrastructure. Whether they have insurance or not, it is their responsibility, because it's their responsibility, because whenever there's a profit sharing, we do not share in that profit. We don't share. We don't get a part. We don't partake of that profit sharing. So we shouldn't be partaking of having to fix their utilities that we have to pay for, sometimes at a high price.
Sherelle Lockhart said she feels the island should be moving towards alternative energy sources. Nonetheless, she said there are things people can do to save on their power bill.
Energy efficient lights, installing energy efficient appliances such as microwaves and stoves and your air conditioning units, and not running it all day. Being sure to unplug your devices so that it doesn't eat up all of the power, because even though it's plugged in and you may not have it on, of course there's power still running to it, so that whenever you do flip the switch, it's there. And so certain things you're gonna have to do in order to do that.
A local funeral home owner says continued restrictions for burials are putting a strain on funeral homes, which are running out of space as some families opt to wait until a funeral and burial can take place with more of their loved ones in attendance. Here's Georgia Bain.
Evergreen funeral home owner Denali Penn Mackey says it's ludicrous that restrictions for funerals have yet to be fully relaxed, adding families are being punished during their time of bereavement. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced that on all islands, including Abaco and New Providence, funerals may be held in a religious facility following protocols and Ministry of Health approved guidelines currently in place for church services.
As families come in, they can wear their masks. We sanitize them, all right? And then we sit them at at a distance away from each other, but at the same token, they are able to actually come and pay their respect and pay tribute to a life that was well lived.
On Abaco and New Providence, graveside services may be held with 10 people in attendance, not including the officiant and mortuary workers. Repasts are not permitted for Abaco or New Providence.
I feel like the government is punishing families. This is ludicrous. We understand that this is a pandemic that is going on. We understand more than the general public because we most of the time have to deal with some of these cases. And we have to deal with these families.
According to Mackey, the restrictions are putting a strain on funeral homes, which now find themselves at capacity, as some families are opting to wait for the measures to be relaxed.
The real overload is here at the funeral home. We are running out of space because we do have some families who opt to push back in hopes of having an announcement made for more persons to be able to attend.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
Well, lockdowns during the pandemic posed a great challenge for the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation's offices on New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Abaco. Housing Minister Omar Ferreira said they fell behind on repairs to clients' homes.
The continued repair and recovery programs on Abaco and Grand Bahama were negatively impacted by the lockdowns. These closures have caused significant delays to the timely completion of work on clients' homes.
Still to come, the mother of a 1-year-old baby needs your help paying for life-saving procedures. Stay tuned.
Catch Gunday Kids on Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Gunday Kids is a show about learning, interacting, and having fun. Goombay Kids is made for kids, by kids, right here in the Bahamas.
Sit back, here we go, it's a Goombay day.
Goombay Kids!
You're watching Our News. Welcome back. There is increased demand for home ownership, according to Our Homes President Ferdinand Wilson, who says he believes it was brought on by the pandemic. However, he said during these tough financial times, the company, through Sunshine Finance, has found a way to make the dream of home ownership a reality for civil servants, allowing them to purchase property with a down payment of $500.
I'm to say, listen, let's start selling property, give people a chance to get into the realm of owning their own home, and then do it in a way in which if they work for the government, they could do it with as little as $500 down, and then they could start their process with.
Wilson says this is the first time in 30 years the company is selling property, which in this case is located off JFK. He's hoping teachers, members of law enforcement, and other civil servants take advantage of the opportunity.
Depending on the response of people, we are moving forward. So right now as we speak, we have property off JFK. We have property of Prince Charles, for example. We have property of the Charles Saunders Highway, just an example. As we speak right now, we're looking to get approval for 2 more communities based on the response that we've received. One in the south and then another one in Carmichael area. And also in Tropical Gardens. And so we have a lot of different things that we have the land bank.
Well, a young mother is pleading for financial assistance to help her 1-year-old daughter who is in need of several life-saving procedures. Jillian Ray has her story.
She don't do anything that a baby her age will do. She don't sit up, she don't walk, she don't do tummy time, she don't paddle like how babies would. She don't fool you with her eyes.
When Chantel Claire went into labor in July 2019, just 32 weeks into her pregnancy, she knew something was wrong. After trying to push for hours, she had an emergency C-section. Now, more than a year later, her daughter has several health challenges, from having to eat through a tube to a curved spine.
She has a few other doctors she has to see. She sees the neurologist last week on the 10th, where they diagnosed her with cerebral palsy. And she did a little previous eye examination where they said the eye is bad. She is somewhat legally blind.
1-year-old Cheyenne weighs only 11 pounds and 5 ounces. The family has temporarily relocated to the United States as Cheyenne has to see several therapists and specialists. Claire, who had to leave her job at the Ministry of Education to take care of her daughter, said seeing her baby in that condition is heartbreaking. She added that they would like to come home, but she's unsure her daughter would be able to get the care that she so desperately needs.
It's overwhelmed at times because I'm always asking myself how she get like this. You know, I was a diabetic with my other daughter, and she born at 35 weeks with no complications. You know, and then here comes Cheyenne with all of these complications. So it does get tiring at some time and heart-wrenching. My main concerns are being scared to come back home, not knowing if she would get the help or the specialty doctor she needs to see if we have those, you know?
In addition to needing baby glasses, a body brace, a wheelchair, and brain surgery, Cheyenne has racked up a medical bill of over $80,000. She's been sick from birth, therefore she's never had insurance. Her mother has created a GoFundMe page to help pay for her treatments.
My Facebook name is Giselle Claire, which is my daughter's name. I have the GoFundMe page up, so you can click the link, and each donation will be greatly appreciated to try and help Cheyenne get the best help she can and to get her where her milestones need to be.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
And that's a look at news. Stay tuned. A check on sports is up next.
On Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Home Bay Kids is a show about learning, interacting, and having fun. Goombay Kids is made for kids, by kids, right here in the Bahamas.
Sit back, here we go, it's a Goombay day.
Goombay Kids!
A win for the Miami Dolphins has local fans riding high, I don't know why, into another football weekend. Marcellus Hall has more in this edition of sports.
This just in, the Miami Dolphins have won the Super Bowl. Not quite, but for Miami Dolphins fans, the next best thing did happen, which is they picked up their first win going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Rejoice, oh rejoice, all you fans of the Miami Dolphins. There will be no winless season. Last night, the Fins getting their first win of the young NFL season, avoiding the dreaded 0-3 start. Miami looking like a juggernaut as they took apart the Jacksonville Jaguars in a blowout 31-13. Ryan Fitzpatrick with a near-perfect night, completing 18 of 20 passes for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for another. Dolphins now 1-2 on the season. Week 3 set to continue now over the weekend with another full slate of games. And a quick NBA update. The LA Lakers now 1 game away from going to the NBA Finals, beating the Denver Nuggets last night. Bad news, Denver Nuggets have been here before, down 3-1 again for the 3rd time in the Western Conference playoffs. As for the Eastern Conference, well, how about the Boston Celtics on the brink of elimination? They'll try to stave it off, taking on the Miami Heat tonight. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marcellus Hall.
And that's a look at news. We throw it back to meteorologist Greg Thompson for the extended weather forecast.
Thanks again, Kyle. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your second look at weather. On our satellite, moisture associated with a frontal boundary hanging across the southeast Bahamas, now lifting towards the northwest Bahamas. Lots of showers and thunderstorms across the area. That pattern will continue through tonight, tomorrow, and into Sunday as this pattern remains in place. Your boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your wind's going to be out of the southeast to south, 10 to 15 knots, seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean, while the southeast Bahamas, east to southeast flow, 10 to 15 knots, seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Here's a look now at your national forecast. Here's a look now to extended forecast through Wednesday. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe and great night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. Remember, you can catch Our News on the go with the Play app. Have a good Friday evening, Bahamas.